Hello and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 115. Chris, did you know that there's a chess piece that has 115 inequivalent ways of placing it on a 6x6 chessboard so that no two of them are attacking each other? Do you want to take a guess as to which piece that is?
Pawn or knight? One of the...
Pawn or knight's a good guess, but no.
Oh, okay. I don't know then.
Okay. So anyway, it's the rook. Apparently, but 115 rooks. Hold on a 6x6 chessboard.
I know. That's why I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Why don't I ever? I never think about these before I say them. Oh, I wanted to correct the last one too. I was saying that 114 is the smallest positive integer that you can represent as a cubed plus b cubed plus c cubed. But I had that flipped. It's the smallest positive integer which has yet to be represented as a cubed plus b cubed plus c cubed.
Okay.
So you can't. Yeah, it's the smallest number where you can't represent it like that. And
so exactly the opposite of what you said.
Yeah. Now I need to verify this rook fact too.
It's probably something like 119 ways to put 2 rooks on a 6x6 chessboard. Something like that.
Inequivalent ways of placing 6 rooks on a 6x6 chessboard.
Oh, 6 rooks. Okay.
6 rooks on a 6x6 chessboard. How could you have 115 ways of doing that?
Where none of them can attack each other?
Yeah. Because the rook is that's the castle that like goes in rows and columns, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, so much for my fun fact again. I guess next episode we'll figure out what the actual fact is.
You're welcome, Aaron.
Aaron's just now rejoining us 30 seconds in. How was your last week? What'd you get up to?
I finished my linear algebra final, which
congratulations.
Is good. It's done. It's in. So I can think about other things. As a result, I have dropped to 30th place in the Stable Diffusion Kaggle competition.
Oh, man.
So I'm going to pick that back up. The first, like the gold zone is not that far in terms of like absolute score, but it feels that way. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to work on that again, though. I also rearranged my office, as you can see. I was reading a thing. So I've been using the Canon M50, and it does not have autofocus in HDMI mode. And I was reading a thing that said the Sony a6000 does. And I've had a Sony a6000 for longer than I've had a Canon M50. So I got it up and I set it up. I set it up with the lens that I wanted, which was too long. So I rearranged my whole too long, meaning it was 30 millimeters, which is not a wide angle. It's like a more normal focal length. So I rearranged my office, and then I decided I didn't like that lens on it anyway. So I put this zoom lens back on it. So that's what you're seeing now. So it probably doesn't look very much different. But you get to see the corner of my office instead of the back wall because I moved my desk. So
cool. You look good.
That's what I did.
I think if I could repurchase, I also have the M50. I think if I could redo it, I would get a Sony. I think the Sony webcam support is much better than the Canon. That's currently what's preventing me from upgrading to the latest Mac OS, because the Canon publishes this EOS webcam utility that lets you use your Canon camera as a webcam just through USB. So you get autofocus and you get the clean. It's actually like a webcam, but it lags a version behind Mac OS, so I can't update.
Yeah, so I tried using that with the M50 and it didn't really work. So I'm using the Elgato Cam Link with the Sony. So I have the HDMI anyway. We'll see if this camera, it's been on for 20 minutes. We'll see if it shuts off in about 10. I think I made it go to unlimited length, but maybe not. So if my picture goes away, that's what happened. Okay. But yeah, anyway.
I think from what I've read, I think the Sony support for using it like a webcam is better. So
yeah, you have autofocus with a Cam Link and supposedly unlimited runtime, which I had to use G-Photo 2 with the Canon M50 to get. Yeah. We'll see.
Yep. Yeah, using the Cam Link hardware is also just a much more complicated setup. And then that little Cam Link would get really hot, and they were cheap, but then it started acting weird. Like
I was going to say, you bought the cheap ones.
Yeah.
And they're not good. No. I bought the $100 one. Yeah.
But then the downside of that is, it doesn't autofocus, which I don't know how big of a deal that is because I'm sitting in the same place every time. But it just feels jankier. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, cool.
So that's what I got up to.
Congratulations on submitting the linear algebra. How many classes do you have left before you're a master of
5
machine learning?
I'm half through. So next semester. So in the summer, what I realized I could do, and I should have done, is you can take certain courses online at other online universities for pass, no pass grades. You can take up to 2. I should have done that this summer because then I could have finished next year. And they're like generally easier, especially because you're taking a pass fail.
Yeah.
So I should have done
cheaper also?
It's actually more expensive. Yeah.
Okay.
UT Austin is fairly cheap. Like $1,000 per class is like about the cheapest you can get master's classes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
But next semester in the fall, I should take natural language processing and also reinforcement learning, 2 classes I am looking forward to. So
Natural language processing.
yeah. So like text, AI stuff with text.
Yeah, okay. Very applicable in this GPT world. That's cool. Maybe you'll build your own GPT, which could roll into the next thing I want to ask you about of the what you've been thinking about for this project of making a private GPT for Slack or doing more courses. Where are you landed on that?
Yeah. So I still like the idea of like, what would it take to basically take GPT and stand it up on your own servers and like help businesses do that? One, I work at Google, so they might like, oh, okay. I was like, you held up your finger. I was like, what are you doing? Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Like as a business, I think that'd be a neat business, but I don't want Google to take copyright of something I make like that. Yeah. And also, I just don't have the time to like dedicate to that kind of business right now. I have been thinking a lot more though about doing courses. I haven't done a good course for a while. I think AI is a great thing to do. I really like the angle of AI for web developers. So like there's lots of web developers now who think they need to learn AI. And I think I could do that for them. So I've been trying to figure out what that would look like. The problem is there's probably 10 courses I want to make. Like there's a lot of material I could go over. So like whittling that down to what is most valuable. Could I charge for it? Would it be like a free YouTube thing? I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I'm thinking about all of that.
Could we workshop that? Could you pitch me on some of the 10 courses?
Sure. So one of the things that I've heard a lot is people want to learn AI, but they don't want to learn Python, or they want to learn AI in their native programming language before they learn Python. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking about doing an intro to Python course for AI. So like just like the very basics of Python you need just to do AI. Mm-hmm. That's one of them. The other one, I want to do like the same course for intro to AI in Python, Ruby, and JavaScript. Mm-hmm. They all have libraries that you could use, and you could teach approximately the same material in all 3. And then the idea is you could start at any one of those languages, get to about the same point, and then from there, I could make more advanced AI courses in Python because that's really what you have to switch to. Yeah. So, but those intro courses are ones that I'm thinking of right now.
Who do you want to make a course for? Do you want to make a course for web developers, your same sort of audience that you have with the React?
Yeah, so I like the idea of taking people through the same journey I've been on the last few years, which is I knew Ruby and JavaScript, and now I know AI stuff. So how did I get there? What can I do? What could they, what types of problems can they solve? Yeah. There's also this whole other thing, which is maybe I just do a whole course about using AI APIs. So teaching you just enough AI to learn the APIs, so you don't actually make your own models, but you use GPT and stuff. Sort of along with that, I thought about making an AI, like learn AI with no math course. So, I describe what everything is, but I use no math terms because the math really throws people off. I have like more on a list also, but yeah. So I don't know what I want to do first. I don't know. I have to think about it more, but that's what I've been thinking about.
I like the audience of web developers. I like the framing of taking people on the same sort of journey that you've been on. What's the superpower you want to be able to give people? What of all the effort that you put, like you're doing a master's in this, you're diving deep. What's the core thing that you're able to do now that is the superpower that you'd like to give other people?
Yeah, there's 2 sort of different ones, and I don't know which I want to pursue. One is just taking AI tools that are out there and implementing them into your own applications. Mm-hmm. So like you can just call GPT's API, but it's also like for prompting and stuff. Like if you understand the underlying architecture, then that makes all of your interactions with it better. So yeah. So like just teaching people enough so that they can then use the APIs more effectively. So that's like one angle. The other angle is people who actually want to switch careers. So, or want to, like build AI, build custom AIs. So build their own models, train with their own data and stuff like that. So I'm not sure which direction.
Yeah. From your experience, what benefit do you get understanding the underlying architecture? Like what sort of insight do you have into how to more effectively use the OpenAI API, given your understanding of what's going on at the deeper level? What does that let you do?
There's a couple things. One is just people get freaked out by it, so they don't understand it, and they don't like that they don't understand it, and so they don't know how to use it. And so some of it is just giving you some knowledge so that you feel a little less freaked out by it, which helps you use it better. So that's one. The other is like even things like just learning that GPT is trained on predicting the next token. Like just understanding that very deeply, like really helps, with people's understanding. I feel like they're able to use it better. The other thing is like teaching them enough vocabulary so they can learn like what an embedding is, because one of the things you can do with OpenAI is use it for embeddings, and that's not very well known, but it's actually really, really powerful, especially if you're just sprinkling AI into your existing application. Like if you understand what an embedding is, what you can turn into an embedding, and then what you can do with them, that's different than just prompting, and I think probably more powerful for a lot of people. So
that resonates with me, this idea that like you're demystifying this magical genie and
right.
breaking it down enough that people can understand that it's just predicting the next token. Sort of like an expansion of the explanation that you gave me about how the GPT APIs is working. I think there is value in that. That's not necessarily just for web developers. I could see that doing really well just on YouTube as a video of. Let me break down. I'm in a master's program for machine learning. I'm almost a grandmaster in Kaggle. Here's my explanation for 5-year-olds on how to. Maybe if you want to exploit your children for internet clout, here's me explaining to my daughter like how to how these things are working. That to me feels much more like a viral YouTube video than it feels like a course. Like I think what I haven't quite connected is like here's what you'll be able to do after you have this information. Once you understand this lower level architecture, you'll be able to craft much better prompts. Yeah, like what's the before and after of how is this improving my life if I understand this lower level architecture?
Yeah, so that's absolutely something I have to think more about. Also, like you said, so when I'm talking about everything I want to create, a large chunk of that's going to be free, like, and then something I want to make as a paid course. The thing I think makes a lot of sense as a paid course is you want to make your own models in PyTorch using pandas. Here's how you do that. And that's, there's courses that teach you how to do that. A lot of them involve a lot of math. So that's why it's the web developer angle, I think, makes sense for that. It's like you don't want to get a master's in math in order to understand this stuff. I'm going to explain how to make your own custom models, very little math in PyTorch. That I think is a great paid course.
Yeah.
The other thing, the how GPT works, even the intro courses like in Ruby and JavaScript, those could be paid also, but I think those would be great like lead-in courses. They'll learn just enough Python in order to do some AI. That's a great a free lead-in course, right, on YouTube or something. So yeah, I think all those are great free lead-in courses on YouTube.
If you were going to sit down and customize one of these models, go on Hugging Face and train one of the image recognition models to recognize some sort of like novel image, would you use what am I trying to ask? Because you already know Python. Was it worthwhile to learn Python, or like if I erased Python from your knowledge, would the best way for you to make those models to be to first learn Python, or with enough JavaScript or Ruby, it would be better for you to use one extra layer of indirection? How would you do that?
So TensorFlow.js does exist.
Yeah.
You can do it in TensorFlow. But as soon as you do anything serious, you really need Python.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot of people say they just can't learn AI using Python because now they're learning two things at the same time.
Right.
And they want to learn the AI stuff first. And so they are dead set on finding a way to do it without learning Python, which I was too at first. And then I just forced myself to learn Python, but it took a while. But I think if you led with the AI stuff, like here's what you can do in 10 lines of JavaScript. This is great. Now you want to like fully customize it. You really have to switch to Python. Here's an intro to Python course. Or not intro to Python course. Like here's Python for existing developers. Like you already have a lot of experience with development. I don't need to explain like what a variable is, but I do need to explain like how Python deals with lists and hash tables and stuff. That's the kind of bridge course I think you can take after you learn a little bit of AI, because then you're excited about learning enough Python to then do the more complicated stuff.
Yeah, the Suzuki method. Does that mean anything to you?
I think you explained it once before, but I don't remember what it is.
It's this for kids, teaching them how to play an instrument. There's the traditional school of thought, which is like start at the lower level of like what a note is and the physical fingerings or whatever of how to play it, and teach it a little bit of knowledge of music theory. And the Suzuki method is like, let's just teach kids how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on the violin. Just like hold your fingers like this and move the string like this on the violin. And then once you've like you get them to a place where they can demonstrate something cool that they get affirmation for quickly, and then you can backfill the lower level information. That's what I'm reminded of in this situation. Like if you show what's possible, okay, here's the curriculum sort of forming in my head. The problem you're trying to solve, the superpower you want to give web developers is being able to work at one level of abstraction deeper than just using some random company's API of either OpenAI's API or Assembly. You want to give them access to the tools that those companies are using, which is like Hugging Face models. You want to open up Hugging Face models to every web developer. So module 1 is that hook of like, hey, it's cool that there's all these APIs, and that's definitely the easiest thing to do. But as soon as you get to a level of complexity where you need to be editing those models, maybe you have some custom photo analysis that you need to be doing of figuring out if something's a hot dog or not a hot dog, which isn't a great example because I think you can just do that with stuff off the shelf. But come up with a few examples of like here are instances in which you would need to edit the underlying model. First, I'm going to show you the quick and dirty, like how this is possible to do with just JavaScript. And I think you assume that people are just going to use JavaScript. You've mentioned Ruby a couple times. I don't know that I would mess with Ruby.
People don't use Ruby for ML stuff. I talk about Ruby because that's a language I know, and I know people who know a lot of Ruby who want to learn machine learning and don't want to learn Python. So I think it's safe to assume everyone who knows Ruby also knows JavaScript. That might be true. Yeah, that's true.
It depends on the audience, but okay. So that's module 1. Like, here's how it's possible to do this sort of thing, and we're getting a really high level overview. This is the Suzuki. Like, I'm going to teach you how to play the violin. This is sort of like a crash course of that Learn TensorFlow.js book that you recommended me. Here's how you can get to the point where let me tell you about what Hugging Face is, tell you about what these models are. Show you how you can like download these models and run them, and let's do a really basic thing that you're able to get up and running. And then module 2 is, okay, that was just a play example to show you what's possible. So to start getting you more familiar with these, if you're actually doing anything serious, everyone uses Python. You're going to be handicapped if you don't know Python. This is just the language that everyone in this industry speaks. So you need to know just enough Python to be dangerous. But don't worry, I know you're a developer. I'm not going to waste your time with talking about what a variable is, but I am going to talk about how Python is more functional than JavaScript. Instead of calling array.length, you call
other way around.
No? Oh, I don't know any Python. I need to take this course.
It's more object oriented. However, it inherits a lot of C style function calls like length. Okay. Yeah.
Which one of the only things I know about Python is that to get an array length, you can't call array.length. You do len.
Yeah. It really drove me nuts when I was learning it. Okay. Especially because NumPy arrays and TensorFlow tensors, you can call .shape or .size on, and that just works.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Whatever the things are that I need to know.
Exactly. This is what I'll explain.
Yeah. The core thing for me would be like understanding the data models that I'm going to be working with. So like what you just said, understanding what a tensor is, understanding here's what a native array looks like in Python. and here's what you can do with a native array, but we're not going to be using those. We're going to be using this other thing, and whatever the core high level abstractions are. If you wanted to walk through like with me what a Jupyter notebook looks like, and then I'll just tell you all the things that I'm confused by, and then make a note of those, and those are the things you cover in the language. You don't need to cover everything. You don't need to cover I don't know enough Python to fill this in. If there's stuff about Python that you know that you don't actually need to know, you can cut that out for the specific example. And then so that's module 2, like intro to Python, and then module 3 is let's combine these two things. Remember that previous example that we did in JavaScript TensorFlow.js earlier? Look at how much easier this is now that we're able to do it in Python. We have access to these much better tools. We can do this in a Jupyter notebook. It's so much faster, whatever the advantage of running it in Python is. And then what I would love to see you just touch on is like, what do you do next? Because as a web developer, I want to be able to ultimately call this as an API function. I don't know how you deploy models. I think you need some sort of fancy VPS that has a GPU running, but those can be super expensive. Is there another way to do that where it's more on demand? Can I do like a serverless function style thing where I deploy the functions? Or is there other architecture where I can just upload the module to some other, does AWS have a way that I can just upload a model and then call it on demand? And then that's the course. That's how I would do it.
Yeah. So the other thing I could do is basically just jump straight to that last bit, which is, all right, here's how to make very custom models, and then here's how to deploy them and stuff. Like assume there's enough good Python tutorials on the internet that developers will figure it out.
Yeah.
So maybe I do that instead. I'm really not sure.
You could start with that and then send that to because that's going to be valuable for people who already know Python. That's going to be valuable for people who could pick up enough Python to be able to do this.
Yeah. Like I picked it up as I went along. It was annoying for several months, but I got it. I understood it.
Yeah. I could see starting there and then build the modules in reverse order if you wanted to build all.
So I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. That's what I've been thinking about.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool. How about you? I'm more excited to talk about you because you have had a week, right? You've done stuff.
Well, you've also had
FileInbox.
You've also done, yes. Oh, the FileInbox thing is the most exciting. Yeah.
What were you think? What did you think I talked about? Oh, I was talking about. Oh, I guess you also had a week. Yeah. All right.
We had the same amount of time. Yeah. It was just funny to me. One of your reasons for being more excited to talk about me is that I've had a week, but we both had a week. Yeah.
You had a week full of SaaS stuff.
Yes. So I had my first call with Asia Orangio of Demand Maven, and this is she does growth consulting for businesses. She'll come to your business, and for what to me is a very large amount of money, and for businesses already making a lot of money is not very much money. She will do an audit of your business. She asked me for all of my account access to like Google Analytics and user list and anywhere where I would be like processing user data, churn buster, and went through just like, she asked me all the accounts and then I gave them, and then through the rest of the conversation I was like, oh, and also there's this other thing. You probably also want this thing. And she will give it's a month-long process. She has hour-long conversations with you once a week, and then after the call she gives you homework, and then at the end of the entire process, her end result is this like 20-page document that my understanding is it's going to say, here are your opportunities for growth, the lowest hanging fruit, and I think you should do them in this order. And the idea of having a PDF that just tells me what to do, that like if I do it, it's going to grow the company. Like that,
right?
That feels so freeing. That feels like, I think the core of what I've felt frustrated by in FileInbox is there's a infinite number of things I could be working on, right? Do I work on onboarding? Do I redo the landing page? If I redo the landing page, I need to do it like from a better understanding of my customers, right? So shouldn't I talk to more people? But which people do I talk to? Do I talk to like the people in this particular vertical? Well, I guess I should pick which vertical to focus on, but which vertical do I pick? And I guess it doesn't really matter, but so I should just pick one arbitrarily, but I don't really like any of them. So I don't know, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should just not even think about a vertical and go more horizontal and just, I can get stuck in these endless loops and not know what to do. And the idea of just the clarity of like, she's just gonna, I'm gonna take all this complexity and I'm just gonna shove it all over the big dump truck. I'm just gonna dump it on her, and then she's gonna go through it and she's gonna make sense of it with none of this emotional baggage that I have. It's not her business. She's just focused on this problem of like, how do I identify what the core things are to maximize growth? And then she's gonna come back to it. She doesn't have to do any of the work. She just needs to like tell me what the work is to do, and then I get this nice juicy like, oh, it's like hiring a boss. It's the reason we started this podcast, right? Yeah. And she does this professionally. Like she's done this with multiple businesses. She has this track record of being able to grow it. She like knows the things to look for. So yeah, we had the first call and it felt so cathartic. Just she would ask these questions like, what marketing processes do you have right now? How are you currently getting customers? And I'd be like, I don't really have any. I'm not really doing anything. I have some SEO. I'm buying some Google ads. They're not really working. Here's some other things I tried that weren't really working. I tried, Brian Castle, Audience Ops. I tried Audience Ops and I didn't really like the articles that came out of it and didn't really see results. I don't know why. And she was like, okay, that's okay. And then we moved on to the next thing. And just like to get it out of my head and to say it out loud felt so good. It felt so good. Like, it feels like talking to a therapist, but about your business. And I'm feeling incredibly optimistic about the result of like where this is going to end up. So far, the thing that we've established is like she has access to all my stuff. Oh, after the call, she was like, okay, I need access to like this, and this. And I was like, oh yes, absolutely. And in like 5 minutes after the call, I was just like, oh, I have a to-do list. Like I know exactly what to do to push this business forward. All I need to do is do what Asia told me to do. So I got to that. And she also asked for like any customer interviews that I've done in the past of videos. So I was able to scrounge up all those and customer notes. And she also asked if I had any sort of like vision board or business documents about stuff in the future. And that was another thing where I was like, no, I don't really have a vision for my business. I've just been running it. And she was like, okay, we're like, this is something I see really often, that people don't have a vision of like where they want to keep the business. And that's okay. And that's, I think, really frequently a core thing that really helps founders know how to push forward if you know where you're going. And it doesn't have to be like the vision and then you never change it. Just pick a thing you'd like to do. Like, why does your business exist? You can change it later, but test it out. Like, pick a vision and try going in that direction. And if that doesn't feel right, we can change it. But just having a vision, having an outlook of like, this is where I'm going. This is why this thing exists. This is the purpose of how this business in the world helps people. So I gave her all of the notes I've ever taken in FileInbox, which is just this cacophony of these markdown files of like every random shower thought I've ever had of every feature I could possibly build. And now she has them. She's gonna tell me what to do, and that feels very comforting. So that's where we are right now with the Domain Maven thing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that turns out. I was reminded when you talk about like just having a vision for what you want. So Alex Hillman and Amy Hoy have this idea of oh shoot, do you remember what it's called? It's like the reverse plan or something.
Backwards plan. Yeah. Talk
backwards
about
planning.
It in Just Fucking Shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just makes a lot of sense. Like, it's obvious, but where do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then plan basically the milestones or things you have to release in backwards order in order to get there in whatever time you want to get there.
Yeah.
And there's more to it. You can like look that up on their site, but yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, and you can't have a backwards plan if you don't know where you're going.
Right.
You can't
you
work backwards
goal,
from it.
right?
Yeah. And the goal can change. The goal might be, she said she was going to send me a vision document on like how to craft a vision, but she hasn't sent that yet. So maybe I won't continue that thought. You can change your vision, I think, is the core point I'm trying to make. Yeah, I'm also very excited. This feels like I can roll this into the next one I was going to make, which is I have felt more demotivated in working on the repurpose engine recently. And it's a feeling I'm working through, but I noticed like in this conversation with Asia, my enthusiasm for FileInbox went way up, and my enthusiasm for repurpose engine fell a little bit further down. And I don't know what to do about those feelings, but those are the feelings I'm feeling. And at the same time, I felt like I got more clarity as to what repurpose engine was gonna do. There's this competitor now. We're just gonna roll right into repurpose engine here. There's this competitor called Opus Clips that I think has the best product of any of my competitors. Their captions look really good. It's entirely AI based, and the AI is the best AI of anything else that I've tried, finding the interesting parts. It renders really quickly. They have this Discord interface and this web interface so that like the community is baked in, so I can also see like other people's clips rolling in. They do like monthly office hours, and I hopped on one of those, and you get to hear the founder and hear about what he's saying. And I found myself starting to slip down this thought process of like, what's the point of me working on this if they have such a good product already? But then I had a little bit more of a think and was like, hold on. Would I use this? Does this solve my problem? And the answer was no, I wouldn't. Because the sort of clips that I want to take out of this podcast are clips that I want to be able to prove a point. Like something will happen on Twitter where someone's asking a question and I'll remember, that's something we talked about on the podcast. I would love to, instead of just having a text answer here, I would love to insert a clip of the podcast. But I can't really do that on Opus Clips because Opus Clips is finding its own clips for me. And then I had a customer call with I had a call with a potential customer that would be using this video clipping stuff. It was a friend that I made at MicroConf, and he had this beautiful analogy of like AI right now works really well as an Iron Man suit, and it doesn't really work as Wall-E. And that was just like a lightning bolt of like, oh my God, yes, Opus Clips is trying to build Wall-E. And I'm trying to build an Iron Man suit. I have a different perspective on this problem than Opus Clips does. And I can just blatantly steal this great template that they've built. it is just, it's the Alex Romezi style of like the way that they did the captions. And I kind of like the way that they handle emojis in the interface of doing it. Like that part's really good, but they're not solving this problem in the way that I want it to be solved. They're not solving this problem in the way that like I'm trying to solve it for other people. What I want to be able to do is like search all of our episodes to remember the episode that we talked about, whatever the thing is, ERVs, and then be able to jump to that part of the transcript and then maybe have AI suggest for me, here's like an interesting segment of this. But I also want to sort of disregard that and be like, no, I'm looking for the part about the ERV. Okay, yes, this is the part that I want to clip. And then I'd like AI to suggest to me like, oh, hey, would you like to trim out all the silence and trim out all the filler words? Here's the clip that I would recommend. And then I want to be able to, as the creator, say, yes, for most of that, but not this and this part. And actually, I'd like to recombine this part with this other part over here. That's the thing that I'm building. And that's something I think no one else in this space is building. It seems like there's manual editors. There's like really manual editors of the old school stuff of, Final Cut Pro, where you can edit the waveform. And all of us, I think, are building a better clipping thing than that. And then there's more manual editors where you're just doing things like highlighting the transcript of the one video that you uploaded. And that I think is still too manual. And then there's, on the other end of the spectrum, things like Opus Clips that are trying to do it entirely automated. And that I think is not going to get you very good clips. And also seems to be optimized for people who aren't the creator. It seems to be for people who want to grow their TikTok channel by curating clips from other people's channels. That's not who I'm building this for. And I think there's a sweet spot in there of like, I feel like I'm honing what my perspective on this problem is of like, I'm building this for creators to clip their own content and doing it in a way where my tool is an Iron Man suit and it's not Wall-E. So I was able to swing from this familiar place that I've been to before of like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm wasting all my time when Opus Clips exist, to like, oh no, I actually do have a unique take on this. And that feels like a much more powerful position to be in, and one that I can expand on. Like, even if I found out there was another competitor that was, I don't even like the word competitor. If I found there was another person who was approaching the problem from, even that level of similarity, I can go deeper, right? Like no one's going to be able to build the tool that I want. That's the tool that is going to make me the most effective at making these clips. So yeah, felt like I had like a positive reframing in the moment that also I feel like has put me in this more powerful position of like feeling generally more impervious to thinking about other people solving the same sort of problem. So that felt really good.
Sounds good. Yeah, you said a lot there. Let's see.
I sure did. I need to pause more when I'm talking.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to remember the things I wanted to say. It sounds like, managing energy levels, switching between projects, FileInbox and Repurpose Engine, is that feels like how I feel with a lot of things. Managing energy levels between projects, and like, I think the general solution right now is just keep going on both of them, and because I think you want to do both of them. So and you'll only have these insights that like you had this week if you continue to work on them, and don't drop one for months and months. So that's one thing. The other thing is what you said about finding an alternative or finding a competitor and like getting disheartened is exactly what happens in the like creator education space all the time. There are like among video course creators, it's like why would I do a course about AI? Right now, you can look up 100 different university classes that have 20 videos each, all about how to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and 1,000 other videos from other people. And it's like, well, your perspective is unique, especially in the education space. People don't just consume one thing. They consume, 4 or 5 or 30. And so you can be one of those things. And also, like, people, some people absolutely hate university courses, so just cross all those out. And how can you so that's why I want to do like an AI without the math thing. I think that would have helped me early, before I went back and studied the math, like to understand, how things are. Cause nearly all discussions of AI jump into math pretty quickly. And I think you don't have to. So it's finding your unique perspective that serves a set of people who are currently underserved. Keep doing that.
As a consumer, this is so clear to me. I would so much rather have more options. I have a much better experience as a consumer when I have more options available to me. I think I've used the example of mayonnaise a couple times on this podcast, but like when I go to a grocery store and I'm looking at a wall of mayonnaise with a single preference of I prefer avocado or olive oil mayonnaise. That wall of mayonnaise, the wall of jars of mayonnaise condenses down into 1 or 2 or 0 choices. It's like Sir Kensington's, specifically their avocado oil brand, and it's
Hellman's has one.
Hellman's newly has one, but they also have other oil in it. I think they also have canola oil. I think I haven't checked theirs in a while. Primal Kitchen also has one. And so of those two, I've bought them both several times. One of them's a little like more tangy than the other. I think the Primal Kitchen is like a little more tangy, but it's a lot more expensive. So then it's just a decision of like, do I feel rich today, or do I feel like I want to save a little money on mayonnaise today? And then I buy it. So and that's the best mayonnaise for me. And so when my dad walks up to that wall of mayonnaise, his best mayonnaise is a totally different mayonnaise. And I don't know if we need like how many people are in there in the world right now? Like 8 billion. I don't know that we need 8 billion mayonnaises. But maybe we do. Maybe it would be better if every person had their own individual take on mayonnaise. That I feel like would maximize the experience of having mayonnaise for each person. But it's not quite that extreme. It's people can, in the case of courses, I learned so much more hitting a topic from different angles.
Yeah.
And if you're coming to it with a niched perspective that this is teaching AI to React developers with just enough math that you know what's going on, but you're not going to go in depth. You're not going to have to do any proofs. You're not going to have to actually do any of the math. You're just going to cover it at a high level. And you're going to let me go one level deeper than just using existing APIs. I'm going to be able to make my own AI API. That's a fresh perspective. As far as I know, there's nothing that exists that is covering a thing like that. And even if there was, and even if there were 10 courses like that, your particular perspective as Chris Ashard, you're going to have your own take on that. That's going to resonate probably better with me because we're very similar people. I would probably rather take your course than anyone else's, and I'll probably take everyone's course if that's a thing that I'm interested in.
Right.
If there's 5 courses for people like me, like, yeah, I'll take every one, and I'm going to learn so much from the overlap of those courses of like what are the core things here that each of these instructors is saying. Okay, those are really the things to hammer home. And I think it's impossible that you build an identical course to what someone else is building. It's been difficult for me. Like, I've understood this perspective intellectually, and I've been feeling it a lot more with the video clipper, and I feel like I'm just now starting to actually internalize it of like, no, yeah, making stuff is important and worthwhile even in crowded marketplaces.
It's always hard when you see something, but when you see someone who has done something that you wanted to do and probably did it better than you may have done it in certain ways, and you're like, well,
yeah,
yeah, that happens all the time.
Sure, yeah. It's also just fun making it, right? Like, even in the worst case, you're going to learn a lot more about this process going through it. Yeah. I feel like I'm in a much better position with that idea. I will need to end this episode a little early because I have a customer call. But there's potentially 2 other things I wanted to talk about. The first is my grandmother had her memorial service this past weekend. She passed away in February and had a very long, slow decline with dementia. Dementia is a terrible disease. It was awful to watch. And at the memorial, like, it was beautiful, and I was just bawling the whole time, just like tears streaming down my face, and Sarah said my chin was quivering like the entire time. And oh man, my mom gave this beautiful speech and wrote this poem about her, and I went up and gave her a hug afterwards, and was reminded of like I think all the time and energy that I've spent investing in relationships, it feels like it really I don't like the term paid off because I don't want to see this as like mechanistic investment.
Was worth it.
Yeah. This like going through hard stuff and being able to having tragedy bring people closer together. I think is the core benefit of really investing in relationships, and I really saw that happening. Like, spent a lot of time with my cousins and my cousins' kids. It was great. But so I'm saying all this to frame this idea that I had resurface, which is I would love database is the wrong word. A better repository of information about my family on both my mom's and my dad's side. I think this is something we've talked about on this podcast before, but I was reminded of it at the service. Maybe. People were talking about all these great stories of my grandmother that I'd never heard before. And, my mother had a very different perspective on her than my cousin did, than my grandmother's siblings did. She was one of 10 siblings. Like, that's too many people. And it's a different world where people used to have 10 siblings. My grandmother's father had a farm, and so on a farm, I think it makes a lot more sense to have more kids because it's free labor, right? There's a dark side to that, which is like he was extremely abusive, and anyway. I would love. I took a audio recording and asked people if they made a speech to send me the text of their speech. And I would like that to live somewhere. I think I want it to live in sort of like a private Facebook where the profiles aren't like a Wikipedia Facebook where you can upload photos and you can post stories about a person. And so I've been playing around with ChatGPT, like designing the system on Firebase and designing the data models, and sort of like a Facebook Wikipedia hybrid crossover. And I think, there's this great article called "An App Can Be a Home Cooked Meal" that talks about how when you build an app, if you build apps and it costs nothing but your time, it's totally okay and in a lot of cases preferable to build an app that's designed to only be for a small subset of people that you know. And I think that's what I'm building. I think I'm building a thing where I principally so I can keep track of all these photos of people. It's cool what's possible now that I can do like face detection and figure out who people are and automatically link those to profiles eventually, and use Firebase cloud storage to store like gigabytes of photos and be able to browse those and make them thumbnails and all that. But principally, it's for me to be organizing all this information and keeping track of it. And then for the handful of other genealogically inclined people in my family, give them access to be able to curate stuff like this. So I've been hacking on that today. I find it really difficult after traveling to like get right back into the work that I feel like I should be doing, like the most important work. So this today has been my like easing back into work, doing a fun project thing. But I think I'm just curious on your take on this sort of app. Am I being dumb? Should this just be something that I haven't actually looked into any alternatives, or like maybe Ancestry.com already does this way better than I could have, but I'm also just enjoying the process of making it and designing it. And similar to our previous conversation, I think I'll have my unique take on how to keep track of this information, and that feels worthwhile. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So my first thought is it sounds like a neat thing to work on. My initial how would I get this done as fast as possible would be to make a Google Drive or a Dropbox folder with subfolders for each of your different things. Like, I don't know, could you do that? Put all the stuff in there and then see how people use that. Maybe get an email list going and send out an email, once a quarter or something with like interesting files that have been added to the drive or something. That's how I would MVP it. My feeling is you'll work on it and you like working on it, and then it'll get into some half-done state and then people won't use it. That's just my feeling.
Probably.
But, maybe I'm wrong.
But I think it's a great idea. My counter to that is I've already done that. like 2 years ago, I started it and it's been in a half-done state. And usually what happens is the second wave that I feel sort of like clarifies and crystallizes things. And then I take that half-done state to a thing that I can use that other people can log into, and then it sits there for a while. And then my next wave is like, okay, let me do a little bit of work so that other people can actually use this. So if past trends continue, by the end of this wave of enthusiasm, I'll have a thing that I can use to organize stuff better than Google Drive would. I want like a Google Photos sort of interface where you scroll down and it's just a grid of photos and you can comment on the photos, and
you can make a shared photos album.
I could, but that's not quite what I'm. That's not quite what I'm making.
Okay, I mean, okay, like this is the reason home cooked meals are a thing, is because you can't you make it however you want.
Yeah,
so
this is how we want to do it.
Then do it. May I suggest, if you run out of steam before you finish it, at least upload the recordings and stuff to a drive or Dropbox.
Yeah. Right now, I think what we've been doing between my mom's and my dad's family is just like emailing Dropbox links of stuff to other people.
Which you could do too.
I've been trying to collect as many of those repositories of things that I can.
There's a reason why email and spreadsheets are like the two most popular apps ever.
Yeah.
Because they're super generic and everyone has them.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Last point that I'd love to cover briefly. Do you know about Blue Sky?
I have seen a bunch of invite things going on Twitter. I think it's a Twitter alternative. That's all I know.
Yeah. Do you have any hot take on it?
Okay. Nope. Okay. I don't know. I haven't used it. So I know almost nothing about it. I
had an insight about it that I've been chewing on. So I think I just want your take on. It's a Twitter alternative. They're doing something kind of interesting with it, which is it's based on this open protocol, similar to how Mastodon's doing it. My understanding is it's like this federated system. I don't quite know what federated means, but I think it means like Blue Sky is committing from the beginning to not completely owning all the data. Twitter owns all their data. If you want their data, you have to use their API, and they recently shut down the API. Or shut down part of the API. I don't think I understand that.
They made it very, very expensive to use. That's basically what they did.
Oh, is it the price? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Blue Sky is sort of this hybrid between Mastodon and Twitter. Like they have the usability of Twitter. They have a nice, speedy mobile app. and it's this federated open platform, but it's really easy onboarding. There's one kind of cool thing in it, which is you can have your username be any domain name that you own. So I have the really cool username at gen.co.
Nice.
If you're on Blue Sky, you can add me if you want to. And then the API is super straightforward to use. I made a bot for Attaboy at attaboy.ai, and one person used it, which was a friend of mine from college who gave me the invite so that I could make a new account for it. I don't think people want to get affirmation from a public bot is my intuition.
Right.
And there's no DMs. And I don't think there can be DMs based on how the protocol works. So some interesting things that might turn into something else, but I was really surprised that like, it seems there's this culture starting to form on Blue Sky that seems to be promoting this story that like Twitter is this hateful, evil place, and that Blue Sky is so much more fun and people are so much more free to be goofy. And I was having a conversation with someone about this. Like, that's not my experience at all on Twitter. Like, no one's ever been mean to me on Twitter. I don't understand. And I think now I understand. And I think what's going on is there are subgroups of people who feel persecuted on Twitter. Particularly people like the trend that I'm currently noticing is people very far left on Twitter are flocking to Blue Sky and have this ethos of like, let's make sure we keep the far right people off of here. And I think that's the zeitgeist of like what a lot of people are getting out of it. So when people are saying like it feels so much less hateful, it feels so much less hateful for someone who is further on the left, who's getting more of the far right hate on Twitter. And I don't think I'm in that camp, so I'm not feeling any of it. So in terms of a community, there's not a huge difference to me. There's people I want to talk to on both networks. And it's interesting seeing that sort of community form. What's your take on that?
Okay. Yeah, we have like 3 minutes till your call. So now that you've explained it, I do have a couple of hot takes. One is 99.999% of people do not care whether an app is federated or how the API is or anything.
Yes.
They care where all their friends are.
Yes.
And so they will use whatever network has the most people on it.
Yes. If
Blue Sky gets the most people, then they will use it. But then it will have all of these groups on it attacking each other, and it will become exactly what it hates.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. They're either going to lose because no one uses it, or they're going to win, which means they're going to lose because the hate's going to come.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm curious to see how this shakes out. Okay, cool. Yeah, that feels like a good place to end it. Chris, that is all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then, I got to move my mouse over. There we go. Then I will see you next week. Goodbye.